Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to have a look at two interesting instances in day 2 of the World Rapid and Blitz Championship. So the first game I want to have a look at it was against with Magnus Carlsen against Vincent Keymer. So the opening was obviously the Spanish opening or the Ruy Lopez opening, and this is the critical moment after King G5 played by black. Here King F1 was played. The idea was simple. White simply, Magnus really wanted to come and attack the C5 pawn, and here black made a mistake, bishop d6, and Magnus also in return returned the favor back by playing knight d5, and this eventually ended up as a draw. So going back to this position after bishop d6, white here could have played knight f5, attacking both the bishop and the pawn, and if the bishop retreats to f8, then we have king e2, and as you can see, the c5 pawn will eventually become very weak. This is not a straightforward advantage, but considering Magnus's strength in the endgame, he would have easily converted this and eventually had won had he had chosen knight f5. However, this game ended up as a draw. Now, the second important game in day 2 was in round 9. This was a game played with Yu Yangyi against Vladimir Fedoseev. And here, knight f6 was played by white, and after king f8, then here rook a8, and this is a critical moment. Here, if, for example, black plays king g7, this is obviously a checkmate. So going back to this position, if king e7 was played, then obviously there was a fork. So to make things more reasonable, knight e8 was played, and as you can see, black is in a lot of trouble at the moment because the rook cannot simply move away from this e file because there are two pieces currently attacking this knight, and you need the king and the rook defending it, otherwise black will lose immediately. And this is a very strong position for white. However, white messed this up. We'll have a look at how they did. The idea was simple. After f5, which is the critical move, now the rook came back, and here the king started to go forward. After rook f1, the king went further forward, and here they played this king d4, and this eventually is a drawish position now. So let's go back to the original position. After knight e8, we have king f2, and after rook e6, as you can see now, because all these squares are now taken off and the rook has to be on the e file, only 2 squares are available for the rook at the moment. So after king f3, the rook can come to e1, and rook, after say rook b8 was played. Instead, white simply could have played f5 straight away. This obviously simply to break the pawns, and after, for example, if g takes f5 is an option, we'll have a look at if the pawn is not taken, say for example rook f1, then now you can play king e2. And as you can see, this rook cannot come back to the e file again, so they simply can take the pawn, but after that this is a checkmate. So going back to this position after f5, we had a look at rook f1. That is not a possibility. So after g takes f5, and now the pawns are very weak for black. So king f4, the black can give a check. The only reason black's rook can move away from this e file is to give check. So the king can go forward. Again, as we mentioned, the black rook always have to come back to the e1 square or the e file. And after the king takes the pawn, rook f1 is possible. However, the king simply has to come back. And after king e6, now the knight can take the pawn. And here f5 can be offered, but it's not necessary to take the en passant at the moment. All white simply has to do is to simply play knight f6, and after king f7, the whole idea of moving this pawn is to simply give some breathing space for the king. Here, however, white can simply simplify the position, and as you can see, this is an easy winning endgame for white. But unfortunately, Vladimir Fedoseev missed this opportunity, and now both Vladimir Fedoseev, Yu Yangyi, and Magnus Carlsen are on 7 points each, on tied on first place.